Tariffs, technology and Taiwan, hard issues front and center for the Beijing summit between Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. But there's a softer side to the relationship between the two superpowers. Krystal Chia has details.
Olga Soltesz was 17 when she went to Beijing for a game of table tennis in 1971. It was her first trip out of the United States, and she had no idea it would make history for US-China relations. 55 years later, Olga and her teammates from that time are back in China to commemorate the event.
I don't think we knew what to expect even, so going into this totally different world was amazing. Then when we went out of the world, everybody in the United States, we were in every magazine and everywhere, we couldn't believe it that it was such a big deal, But it was and still is.
Olga was one of 9 players from the US table tennis team who went to Beijing at the invitation of then Chinese leader Mao Zedong. They were the first delegation of Americans to visit the country since the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949. They were welcomed by then Premier Zhou Enlai and toured landmarks such as the Great Wall. The trip started what became known as Ping-pong diplomacy and paved the way for then-President Richard Nixon's visit to Beijing the following year. This year, commemorations were held in both Beijing and Shanghai. The Beijing event was attended by Vice President Han Zheng, who read out a congratulatory letter by President Xi Jinping. Scholars say these efforts are no coincidence, happening before a summit between President Xi and US President Donald Trump.
This is so historically important, but also urgently matters to the Trump's visit. Just as the 1971 ping-pong visit preceded President Nixon, February 1972 visit to Beijing, China is consciously invoking that same template ahead of Trump's visit.
China is a rising power. So the idea of China is not shared equally between Chinese and non-Chinese. But when ping-pong players get together, the message is crystal clear. That's power of shared vision, shared history. So maybe we could once again remember the lessons we learned from ping-pong diplomacy. If the Chinese leaders and American leaders can achieve something miracle at that time, why not now?
There are other groups of people who have seen the softer side of China-US relations. There are the Flying Tigers, a group of American pilots who fought for China in World War II. Their descendants were invited to China's military parade in 2025. President Xi Jinping himself has a relationship with Iowa. In 1985, he visited the state as a provincial official and stayed with local hosts, forming a bond that state media continues to report on. And China's panda diplomacy, another branch of its cultural outreach. China recently announced a new pair of giant pandas will go to Zoo Atlanta in the US for 10 years.
The key insight here is that hard diplomacy and soft diplomacy, they are not alternative. Right? They work in sequence. So when citizens in both countries see friendly cultural exchange, such as the panda in the US National Zoo, it becomes much more politically easier for leaders to make concessions on hard issues.
Olga and her teammates believe that sports offer a platform for nations to connect.
Everybody's so nice to us, and we come here and it's warm and we like each other. Why can't the world be like that?
They hope that the spirit of ping-pong diplomacy will continue in a world that needs it more than ever before. Krystal Chia, CNA, Shanghai.